All right. You can hear me now, guys?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we're off to a little bit of a later than usual start. But you know, we have some things happening at CSA, so you know how it is. The good news is that well, our exercise today is well, it's a two-part, I guess you could say, series. Part we're going to do in class, and the other part you're going to do by yourself, right? It's another Illustrator exercise, and it doesn't last that long. So we're going to take a look on it. So let us fire up Illustrator as we are kind of already behind the ball already in terms of the timing. Well, I don't have you guys tomorrow, but I think some classes are also going to be delayed tomorrow as well. So you can look out for that depending on what module you have on us. Well, not a lot of us have classes on a Thursday, I believe. Right. I'm sorry we have to just dive right into it because of the time. I am eager to know how your tectonics critique went, but I'm sure you all bombed it, right? You all aced it. Had excellent critiques, and your lecturers were very proud of you in your design studio, right? Oh Lord. At least that's what we...
No, funny. I don't know why you're laughing.
Oh, well, I know how it is. CSA is a special place. So, but we tend to be in love with our designs and our creations, and I guess that is the motivation that kind of pushes us along. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna jump right into it because we have some secrets to unravel with Illustrator. This exercise is perhaps the most important one that you will do, and you will see why. It is directly linked to some of the things that we will use in architecture. Let's see here now. I think I have to make one little adjustment with my drive. I had some of my classes on my laptop today because I was on campus. And some of the classmates said, oh, they saw me on campus. And I'm saying, how comes you never called to me? You know? And then I went in the studio to look for you guys, but then you had left by the time classes finished. So, oh well. I guess we only know each other in the virtual realm, right? Right. So as I am switching back here, Google is giving me some weird messages. Just give me 1 sec. Let me see if it works. All right, we're in business. We are in business. All right. Okay. All right, so exercise 4, we only have one more exercise remaining, and then it's time for the proving ground, right? Okay, everyone, welcome to exercise 4. And head on over to the website.
Sir, not seen the videos.
Yes, hang on one sec. So we're gonna look on how do you do artificial presentation. Dear Lord, where is that coming from? You can see where this is a standard artificial, right? And it's gonna look like a black background because and if I open this file here, you will see that this is what the file is like. Okay, I can't seem to find what is playing. Give me 1 second there. I'm trying to figure out what's happening here. I can clearly see these lines here. I can select a line. I can move it around. You know, but notice how there is no precision because there's no measurement and these are things that we're all familiar with. All right. All right. All right. Okay. All right. Finally, let us proceed. How do we do architectural presentations using Illustrator, right? And if you look at the examples on the handout, you can see where this is a standard architectural drawing and it perhaps has a black background because perhaps most times we do architectural drawings, they are in AutoCAD and the background is usually black. So that's what this is representing here. And we want to look how to convert this into this. So if you look at your exercise files that we have available, you will see a bunch of images, mostly PDFs, of all kinds of architectural assets. Now what you'll be looking for, you're going to be needing a DWG file, right? And if I open this DWG file here, you will see that this is what the file looks like in AutoCAD. And I can, in the AutoCAD application, you might realize that there are tools that are similar to Illustrator. However, they're more geared towards architects and engineers. But notice that, like Illustrator, I can clearly see these lines here. I can select a line, I can move it around, you know, but notice how there is no precision because there is no measurements and dimensions. And these are things that we're all familiar with architectural drawings. So the idea is we want to not show the drawing as construction drawings, but rather to use this same method used to create construction drawings as working drawings. So what you'll notice is when you save an AutoCAD file, it saves as a DWG file, and that DWG file is able to be read in Illustrator. All right, so therefore we're going to open Illustrator now, and we're going to go to open, and we're going to browse for the location of this DWG file that we see here. Here we go. And I'm going to open this like that. Now your Illustrator should bring up this option here to read the DWG file. And you're going to leave it on the default, which should be scale to fit artboard. We're going to choose OK. Ignore any messages and just choose OK to open. Now once the file is open, this is what you should have. Now notice when you hover over these lines,
Excuse me, sir,
the
are
same
these
lines
files in
that you
exercise 3?
Right, you are correct.
Okay.
It is from exercise 3. So I was gonna pause in a little bit just to give you guys a chance to kind of locate those files and open it in Illustrator. All right, so we can just do that now. So as usual, the exercise files are located on the handout. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds just to grab those files. Well, I want you to, grab those files. You primarily only need the AutoCAD file. So when you go on the website, and you go to exercise 4. Oh, did I say exercise 3? I meant exercise 4. Then you will see this exercise files right here. Now to get going, you only need this first file that says ACAD working drawings. So that's the only file I want you to download for right now. You can have the rest downloaded in the background, but just to kind of get going. And then when you have Illustrator up, then you go to File and Open. And you're going to locate, you're going to locate where you downloaded that file to, and just open it in Illustrator. All right, so in this case, it's in my Downloads folder. There it is. And you will get the option. It will default to scale to fit artboard. That's fine. Just choose OK. And OK. Any messages come out, just choose OK. And then what you have should look like what I have. So I give you like a minute.
Sir,
Yeah.
trying to do that, sir, but it's not working.
Say again.
I trying to do that, sir, but it's not working.
Oh, what happened when you tried to open the file?
It's saying first it says scale to fit artboard, and I press OK. And then after that, there's a font problem that come up saying that the font's not found on the system, missing font has been substituted. And I press
Right.
OK again, and then it worked now. It worked now, sir. Never mind. Thank you.
All right, cool. So let me give everybody else like 2 minutes just to kind of get everybody caught up. All right. All right, so let's get going again. Anybody else experiencing any problems? Nope. All right, let's proceed. Notice coming from AutoCAD is now in Illustrator. Now, you might notice that these lines are a bit thick though. And that's just because the way how Illustrator has interpreted the line weight, right? Okay, now also notice the elevations and notice how all of these are individual lines, right? And this is because Illustrator is able to read the vector information from that DWG file. Okay, so now what we're going to do before we do anything else is we need to fix these line weights. Now, if you remember from the previous class, we do have the stroke panel which allows us to manipulate individual lines. Now the first thing we want to do is we want to change all these lines to black. So we're going to select everything. And notice when we select all the lines in our drawing, if we take a look at what this is saying here, it is not able to tell us what stroke and what fill we have selected, right? Notice that there. However, if I selected, let's zoom in here, if I selected one line, like maybe this cyan line here, it's able to tell me that I have a cyan line selected. However, if I select multiple lines, it's going to give me a question mark, and that is because it has multiple lines selected and it's not able to display multiple lines here. Now the first thing we're going to do before we change all these lines to one color is we need to get ourselves organized. Now if you look on your layers tab, notice that you have some pre-made layers. And funny thing, these layers were actually interpreted from the AutoCAD application. If I go over to AutoCAD application and I look on my layers, notice that these layers here, the short for annotate, appliances, details, dimensions, and now these layers are actually now interpreted with Illustrator. So that this tells us that Illustrator is able to read DWG files and to translate the information from it into Illustrator. So tell me, have you guys ever worked with a DWG file? Any of us familiar with that file format?
Other in AutoCAD?
Right, that's what's used in AutoCAD. Who in here has, let me put it the other way, has never used AutoCAD? Let's go by raising of hand. Who in here has never used AutoCAD? Okay. So can I assume that everybody, okay, that's like one person. Is there, I can assume that most people have?
No, I've never used AutoCAD.
Okay, so we have a few others. So when you work in AutoCAD, the file type that AutoCAD uses is DWG. So DWG is pretty much like a industry standard. Think of it as a Word file, a doc file. You know, a Word file is kind of the industry standard for a document, right? It's the same way in the architectural industry, a DWG is the standard for a drawing file. So just about any program on the planet will import a DWG file. So when you import it though, different programs will do different things. So the good thing about Illustrator is that it will recognize the existing layer setup that you may have from AutoCAD, and it will import that exact layer setup in Illustrator. So that's a pretty cool deal. Now, the first thing we want to do is get a little bit more organized with our text. And notice that the text has also been interpreted. We can use the text tool and be able to highlight this text, and we can modify it. However, what we want to do is to put all text objects on one layer. Notice we don't have a layer for text objects here. Now, in order to do that, we could manually select each object here and then create a new layer to put them on. And to do that, well, let's do one first. So I'm going to select this balcony thing here, and I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to call this new layer text. Now, of course, if I wanted to put this on this layer, I could search for it here in this list and drag it to that new layer, but that might be a little bit ergonomically difficult. So what I suggest you do is to click on the word on the layer, right click on the object that you want to go to that layer, and then you're going to go to arrange and send to current layer. And the current layer you have selected is text. So when you do that, it will go over to that layer. And surely enough, if I turn it on and off, you will see that is now there. Now we have many other texts to select here, but rather than individually selecting them, we also have text over here. Rather than individually selecting them, what I want you to do is to go to select object, and then say all text objects. So that's under select object, and then you go to all text objects. And once you do that, it's going to automatically select all text objects in the drawing. When it does that, we can now put everything over to the text layer here. Now, funny thing, an important thing to notice, when I right click and I say, okay, now I want to go to arrange and send to current layer, you might notice send to current layer is currently grayed out, and you might be wondering, why is that? Now, the reason for that is that there is one text object that is already on the text layer. So, you know, Illustrator is saying that, well, you can't send something on a layer to itself. So what you want to do is to deselect this singular text that we already had placed on the text layer. So again, when you select all the text, you want to deselect the one that we already placed on the text layer, and you do that by holding shift and clicking on the text there. All the other text is still selected, and now when you highlight the text layer and then you right click on any one of the text, you should see now send to current layer. Now once you do that, now you'll be confident that all the text in the drawing is now on one layer. We can actually turn that off or on.
So go back over again.
So that is great.
I didn't
Right.
see where you're saying.
So whenever you're putting items on layers, what you want to do is, first thing you do is you highlight the layer that you want to have the item on. So in this case, I've made a new layer and I've called that text layer. I call that text. And then in order to put something on a layer, what you need to do is right. So what you do is select the layer that you want to put the item on. So in this case, I want it to be the text layer. Now, keep thing, you don't need to click the circle, because when you click the circle, what you're doing, that's this circle here. What you're doing is actually highlighting all the objects on that layer. All you need to do is just click anywhere in this blue section here, and that will highlight the layer. You click the object that you want to go on that layer. Well, actually, you should click the object first, then click the layer, and just right click and say, and under arrange, you say send to current layer. Now, the other thing that I did, I mean, you could hold shift and select all of these items here, and you could do the same thing again. You can right click, well, make sure that you highlight the layer first, and then you right click and say arrange, send to current layer. Of course, if you had a whole lot of, text, then that might be quite annoying. So what I showed you there was to use the select. It's kind of like a select similar for those of you who use AutoCAD before. Essentially, you can just go to select and say select everything that is the same or anything that is all text, and then it will automatically go through and select all text objects, and then you can actually put that on a layer. Now, here's a little key thing here. Notice that it's telling me it's not allowing me to send to current layer, and the reason it's doing that is because some of the text that I have selected here I already have on that layer. So it's like I'm trying to put the text that is already on the layer back to itself. So this is why when I go to, this might happen to you because this was happening to some persons. When you go to send to current layer, it's grayed out. And that's because, of course, these text items here, these are already on the text layer. So if I'm selecting those items again, it's not going to give me the ability to put it back on the layer that it's already at. Do you guys understand this? This can be a little confusing. Are you following?
Yes, sir.
All right. So in this case, what I would do is simply I would just turn off the text layer. And then obviously those elements that are on those text layer already will be turned off. All right. So that's why you're not seeing them. And now I can go to select object and go select all text objects. And it didn't select the objects that's already on the text layer because it's off. So I'll just turn on my text layer now and just right click and say send to current layer. And now all text in my drawing is on that layer. So when I zoom out, you see that there is no text items there. All right. So I know I just kind of went over, but usually I'm telling you, I know when one person asks, that means there are 10 people that want to ask, and for some reason you guys are not asking. So I just kind of went over the whole thing for those of you who also needed me to kind of reiterate that. All right. So let's proceed. So now that we have the text organized, next we want to get organized with our line weights, right? We definitely want the lines to be in the same color, and we want all the line weights to be a reasonable width. Most of these widths are quite thick and some are thin. So what we're going to do first is we're going to select everything here, and we're going to go to stroke, So ensure that you have highlighted the stroke here. And this is a key point that I want us to know. When you notice that the stroke has the question mark now, that is telling us that we have a multitude of strokes that's currently selected. Now, when you do this, you want to ensure that your text layer is off, because we don't want to be adding a stroke to our text layer. All right, so make sure that that layer is off. So when you select everything and all the layers, when you select all the objects on your artboard, you're gonna now go to color, and then what you're gonna do is recolor all the strokes with black. And you can see that the black button that's right here. Now you need to ensure that you have the stroke that's currently activated on top, right? Because you're applying black to all strokes. Now once you do that, there you go, and you deselect, now everything will currently be black. All right, so if I look around here, you will see that all these drawings are black. Now, of course, we have an issue. The line weight is still a major issue. So what we want to do is make all the line weight one singular line weight. And we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to select. All right. Now, for those of us who are following along, have we been able to select all our objects and make it one color?
Yes, sir.
All right. Anybody having any
Run that
difficulty?
back.
Oh, you're just not there yet?
No, I'm there. I did the thing, but I didn't do it properly, so I need to see it again.
Okay, cool. All right. So all we're simply going to do is we're going to select everything here. And then I'm just going to say, you know, everything that is a stroke. I'm going to make sure I highlight this. So for example, this is saying everything that is fill. This is saying everything that is stroke. So you want to make sure that the stroke is highlighted, and then you want to apply black to it. And that's it. And that's why you get everything to be black. All right. All right, so let's proceed. All the line work here. And this time we're going to head over to our stroke panel. And in our stroke panel, we can adjust the line weight right there. So yeah.
My line weight not as thick as yours.
That's okay.
Okay.
We're going to make everything one line weight anyway.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes?
After I select the stroke and enable to turn black, nothing has changed.
Deselect. Because what you're seeing here now is the colors of the layers, but the lines are actually black. So you need to deselect. Right.
I see it now.
We want to put our line weight to perhaps, let's try 0.25. Right. And that is looking a little bit more reasonable perhaps. As a matter of fact, that may be a bit too thick. So let's select everything and let's go to 0.2. All right, let's try Let's try 0.5. There we go. Yeah, definitely too thick. So we want to use a stroke of 0.15. Now this is a bit more workable. You can see that we can see all the window frames here. We can pick up all of these details here. And we do have some unwanted lines like this line here that has now reared its ugly head. Now before we go into cleaning up those lines, we need to now turn on our text layer. So we're going to make sure that our text layer is on. And you can see that our text layer still has the color, that is the blue applied to it. So let us also change that to black. So to do that, we're going to select the little round symbol here, and that will select all text. Now for text, we don't want to change the stroke. Instead, we want to change the fill color of the text, right? So you're going to ensure that you need to ensure that your stroke, your fill is highlighted here. And notice you also get a question mark here because it's selecting multiple different fills. So we're going to change all of those fills to one color again. So we're going to select the black color here, or here, anyone. All right, great. So now if we should look around on our text layer, we'll see that it is now black. All right, so we are getting somewhere. So what we want to do now is kind of position this in place. So we want to have two artboards. One artboard will be for the elevation and another artboard will be for the plan. So to do that, we're going to go to the artboard tool that's located right here. And once we go into artboard mode, notice that the artboard now becomes highlighted. We can see the name of the artboard for those who have, I think it's 2018 and up. And we can also see the name of the artboard up here. We can also see the size of the artboard, right? And if you remember how Illustrator works, whatever we have selected, we're getting the properties for it on our bar up top. All right, so what we want to do now is we want to create another artboard. So we want to click the plus button that's right here, and you will see another artboard will be created. Now when that artboard is created, what we want to do is select our plan and we want to move this over. Now when you're moving Illustrator content, you want to grab the actual line. If you try to grab in the middle, you're not going to be pulling anything. You have to hold on to an actual line.
Sorry, but I think I missed the whole part where we were using letter size. So mine is a Google Pixel. Is there a way to create a letter size?
All right, I'm glad
Or
that
I have to start over?
Oh no, definitely not. What you want to do is, this kind of goes back into a little bit of what we did last time, where we talk about artboards. So let me kind of detach my
The time is 7 p.m.
thingy here. Oh, it's raining. And then what I'm going to do is, if you click this icon here, this will go into artboard mode. So once you click it, you're going to notice that you get these kind of dash lines around your artboard. And what you do now is, oh, hold on, let me turn on my This might be already on for you, but for me, I did not enable my hold on, where are you? Control. Right. So that's this control bar up top, right? Remember, sometimes Illustrator disables it. But anyway, so now that when I click the artboard tool that's located here, notice that the option up here is for the artboard. So your own might say Nokia or whatever it is. All you need to do is you just need to click the new artboard button here. So I'm going to click that, and then you'll notice I get a brand new artboard here. Actually, we'll discuss this later on into the tutorial. And then I can just change that artboard to any size that I want. So I can choose the Google Pixel, or I could choose the letter size, you know. So that's how you get a new artboard. So as soon as you create this new artboard now, well, you could actually delete the artboard that you don't need by just clicking on the name up top and pressing delete. Don't worry, it won't delete the items on the artboard. And that's it. So now you can come out of artboard mode by going to your selection tool right here. Right? So once you do that, you're out of artboard mode now, and then you can just select everything. And if you want, you can hold shift and just resize it, or maybe you want to make it smaller, whatever it is. All right. So did that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
All right, no problem. I'm sure the other people that were experiencing the same problem are thanking you as well. I'm saying, oh, thank God you asked that question, because I was wondering the same thing. All right, so don't feel any way asking a question. All right, let's proceed. Content, because this drawing has no fill. So we're gonna grab that and we're gonna put it roughly in the center of the page. The artboard, getting the properties for it on located right here. And once we go into artboard mode, notice that the artboard now becomes highlighted. We can see the name of the artboard for those who have, I think it's 2018 and up. And we can also see the name of the artboard up here. We can also see the size of the artboard, right? And if you remember how Illustrator, that's right here. And you will see another artboard will be created. Now, when that artboard is created, what we want to do is select our plan, and we want to move this over. Now, when you're moving Illustrator content, you want to grab the actual line. If you try to grab in the middle, you're not going to be pulling anything. You have to hold on to an actual line content, because this drawing has no fill. So we're going to grab that and we're going to put it roughly in the center of the page. And we're going to do the same thing for the elevation. We're going to put it roughly in the center of the page here. Then we're going to use our artboard tool again. And what we want to do is we want to name our artboard. So we want to name this artboard elevation. And we want to name this artboard or floor plan. Great. So now we are a bit more organized in how we're going to do our coloring. Now, the first thing we want to do is try to get our elevations to look a bit more vibrant. So what we're going to do now is to start to clean up the elevations, right? So we're gonna, so for example, this line that's here, we're gonna remove that line there. And of course, we can use our direct selection tool, which allows us to select individual lines. There we go. So we're going to remove that. And we basically want to clean up the drawing. So we want to remove that line there. This one. And these are just hidden lines that came over as a result of importing a DWG file. All right, great. All right, so once our line work is all cleaned up, at this point, it would be a good idea to save your work. So I'm going to save my work as exercise 4. And I'm going to make sure I'm saving it as an Illustrator file. And Illustrator will usually give this option. And when it gives this option, what it is saying is,
Mr. Williams, one more question. When I select that line, the whole thing is selected. The whole post is selected.
this is the line that we deleted earlier.
Yeah.
Right, so make sure that you're on the direct selection tool when you're selecting that
Oh.
line.
Okay.
Right, okay. Well, you just choose your version of Illustrator. And this option here, create a PDF compatible file. This is basically enabling the option for the Illustrator file to be opened directly in a PDF application. So we're going to make sure those two options are on, and we're going to choose OK. All right, now Illustrator 2020 has a file recovery option. I believe it saves every 5 to 10 minutes. So if you lose your work, you should be able to get it back. However, we don't want to depend on that. So we want to save as often as we can, right? All right, so now that we have this selected here, now that we have our plans a bit more organized, let us manipulate some of our line work. So we know that we want perhaps this line being the ground line to be a bit brighter, right? So we have more than one options. What we could do is select all the lines along this edge here to make it thicker. But to make life a bit easier, it would be much easier to trace on top of this line with a much thicker line representing our floor plan. Now, when you're tracing lines on top of lines in Illustrator, things get a little tricky. And I'll show you why if I select the pen tool here. And let's say I wanted to draw a line over this line here. Once I hover over this point here with the pen tool, it is going to want to add the line here and merge it with this line, and that's not what you might want to happen. So in order to be able to trace and to enhance some of our line work, we need to get a little bit organized with our layers so that we can control how we do that. So first thing we want to do is let us select our elevation. Well, let's turn off the text layer. There we go. We're going to select all of our elevation, and we're going to put that on a new layer, and we're going to call that elevation. So we're going to create a new layer, and our new layer is located here. New layer button. And when it created the new layer, we want to call this elevation. Say again?
I think I missed something. Your lines look at, did you increase the line weight?
Well, the line weight is up to you. So as it is now, the lines are highlighted. It's not that it is
Oh no, sir. I mean when you zoom in.
Oh,
When you zoom into the wall, mine are still at 1.015.
right. I don't remember actually. But you just make it your thickness, a thickness that you believe looks reasonable.
Okay.
All right. You don't don't have to like for this exercise. I'm not going to say, oh well, I had my lines at 1.5 and yours is at 1.2 or something. Nah, you choose for that. All right. You can use what I have, or if you think you're too fat or too skinny, then you change it. Drawing. Great. So now we need to highlight the layer, right click and say move to new layer. So now we can turn the elevation on or off, depending. I think I might have made an error there. Hold on. There we go. Right. So what happened there is that I had chosen to fill instead of the stroke, right? Because you don't want to fill, these spaces. You only want to change the line. Okay. So that's why my one was looking a bit back. There we go. Right. So now we can turn the layer on or off as we please. Now, one of the reasons for doing this is we actually want to lock this layer. So I'm going to lock the elevation drawing layer. And I'm going to use my pen tool now. Let's create a new layer and I'll call it updated line work. There we go. Call it updated line work. Now this layer we want to be on top of the elevation drawing layer. And what we're going to do on this updated line work layer is to kind of fix up some of our line work so that our drawing reads a bit more nicer. So I'm going to get my pen tool and I'm going to make sure that the elevation layer is locked. All right, that's important because when we draw on our updated line layer, we don't want it to be merging or messing with that elevation drawing layer. So I'm just gonna trace this over here, and what I'm doing is just tracing over the lines. Now Illustrator has the ability to snap to anchors, but I mean we're going to make this line really thick, so if it doesn't 100% snap, it should be fine. There we go. Press escape. I'm going to use my selection tool so I can see that that is the line that I have drawn. And then what I'm going to do is now I'm going to make this line thicker, so I'm going to go to my stroke tool and I'm going to perhaps make this line about 0.5, probably 0.8. Actually, let me fix up my stroke and fill here. So I want to ensure that I'm on my stroke. All right, you need to make sure that so your stroke is highlighted, and I want to make the stroke 0.8. Maybe let's try making it 1. 1 is actually, yeah, there we go. So we have a nice strong baseline there, as you can see. All right, I might have left off a section here, so I'm going to just use my pen tool and continue this line out there like that. There we go. All right, let's continue.
Wait, hold on. How do I send the elevation to the layer? Sorry.
You create a new layer and
Yeah,
literally
I
just
did that.
select the entire elevation drawing, just draw a box around it, and you do the same thing like what you did for the text. Select the elevation layer and right click and say arrange, send to current layer.
Oh, it's grayed out on me.
Right, it's grayed out for me, but it won't be for you.
Oh, it's grayed out for me though.
That is because make sure that you have the elevation layer that you just created, highlighted.
Oh, but when I highlight it, okay. All right, never mind. I think I was clicking the wrong part of it.
Okay.
So I'm moving at it.
Say again?
No matter how much I increase the stroke, it's still thin.
No matter how what?
How much I increase the stroke, it's still very small.
Oh, you might be in outline mode. Hold Control and press Y.
Nothing.
Were you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Some of us press Control Y to redo and Control Z to undo. So a lot of times I might actually accidentally hit Control Y. Control Y in Illustrator is to turn on outline mode, which is to just turn all lines into just one line thickness. So if you accidentally do that for redo, just press it back. To redo is Control Shift Z and undo is Control Z. Okay. So
Excuse me, sir.
as to redo is Control Shift Z. And to undo is Control Z.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
You guys are ahead of me, but I just felt like asking. Probably somebody else have the same issue. After you resize the paper, you remember initially we sized the drawing to fit the original landscape. So what if when we change the size to letter size, the drawing is still positioned landscape? What should we do to resize it again to fit the current art?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, just resize it again. Because we're not particular about the scale of the drawing on the sheet. All right, just don't squash it. Don't skew
Okay.
the. All right.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. Alrighty, let's continue. All right. Now we can use this method to kind of enhance other lines, but pretty much this is good enough. All right, now what we're going to do is use a feature to color our drawing here. Now, this feature called Live Paint Bucket is a feature that's very, I would say, underappreciated. Kimani, you have a question?
Oh, sorry. I already asked it here. Let me know, man. Sorry about that.
No problem. In Illustrator, it's very useful for us, but yet a lot of persons perhaps forget about this tool, even advanced Illustrator users, right? So what the Live Paint tool is, it uses the ability to, it basically gives us the ability to use a paint bucket to fill certain enclosed areas, right? And to give that, if we should look at a little example over here, if I have a bunch of squares, and you can do this example here, you can try this example for yourself. Now obviously I have different squares here, and these are all different shapes. However, where they intersect, like here and here, they form new shapes. However, we are unable to easily fill in this intersected shape, and this is what the Live Paint Bucket allows us to do, because currently Illustrator, if we should just allow these shapes to intersect, there's no way to only fill in the areas that are intersecting. Now the Live Paint Bucket is located as a subtool here under the shape builder tool. So if we click and hold, we should be able to hover over to live paint bucket, and now we're using the live paint bucket tool. Now, very carefully, how the live paint bucket tool works, if you try to use the paint bucket tool now, it's basically not going to work. What you have to do is use your direct selection tool first. So step one, you use your direct selection, your selection tool rather. Select all of the elements that you want to be a part of the live paint group. Then you go to your live paint bucket, and notice you get this message that says click to make a live paint group. Now once you click this, notice that you can now hover over these different areas, and what happens now, if I use my color picker and just pick a color, I am now able to fill in these individual areas even though there are individual shapes. So you can do this little test here to kind of get a feel of how the live paint group works. Essentially what it did, it created a group. So this is actually a special group here. I can move it around. However, I can still go inside the group. So to go inside this group, I can double click. And now I'm inside this group, and I'm still able to move these shapes around. And yet it will keep the colors that were assigned to the intersecting areas. And that is a major cool feature. And we can really utilize that a lot, especially in architecture, to help color our buildings. All right, so now that we have that out of the way, there is one more concept that we need to understand in order to, before we start to color our shape. Now, I want to explain a little bit about color, because yes, we can turn this into a live paint group and we're now able to color these elements here, but how do we know what color to use? All right, so color is a major it is a major skill. Choosing the right color is a major skill that we eventually develop in this design field. And Illustrator actually has the tools to help us be better color pickers. In other words, better designers. Now, what I'm about to show you here is actually a tip that has existed in Illustrator, I think, since its inception. And it's also a little secret that if you're trying to determine what colors go well together, Illustrator has the ability to assist you, to help you to do that. So if we as designers were faced with this problem where we're trying to decide what color should we paint this building in, if you think about it, it's the same kind of question we might ask ourselves: what color shirt should I wear with these shoes? Or what color furniture should I get? What color bedspread should I get to match this curtain? So there are many design problems that exist that is centered around color selection. And what happened, Illustrator has, I call it the dynamic trio of tools that can help us to select the correct color without even breaking a sweat. Now, to use this skill, so these three tools, or rather three panels, is the color panel. The next one is the swatches panel, and the last one is the color guide panel. So So with these three panels, you can passively always select the correct color in whatever application you're using color. It could be with architecture, with fashion, with fabric, doesn't really matter. The way how these tools work, it works using the color theory, and your selections, if driven by color theory, will automatically always work. Okay, so in order to let this work, and I'll show you an example here, the first thing that you need to do is decide. Let's put these three panels over here, as we're going to be using three of them to help with this. We're going to minimize the other panels here, and we're going to just attach these three panels together here.
6 p.m.
All right, there we go. So we're going to put these panels over here. Okay, so now we have our icons organized. Let's put this layer one over here. Right, now we have our icons organized. Now the first thing we need to do is, if we wanted to decide what color to paint this building and we had no idea what color we want to select, we could always start with a theme. Now to do that, you're going to choose the library icon, which is here. It is a sub icon under the swatches menu. So when we select that, this is where you select a theme. So let's say you wanted to use colors that are based in nature. Well, you could go in the nature category, and what subcategory? How about seasons? Well, what you will notice that Illustrator does, it gives you a library of these colors that would be considered under the seasons category. And right away, you have a range of colors to pick from. And within each row are colors that are pretty much made to go together. So you could just basically select one row here and color your building that color. Now, the next step that we would use, let's say that we might like one color out of this set here, but maybe we don't like the other colors in the row. Well, so I'm going to pick let's choose a kind of burnt orange color, maybe earthy burnt orange. Maybe that's too dark, maybe that one. So let's say that this is the color that I like here. Now notice when I select that color, it also shows up on my swatches here, and it is also highlighted on my color guide here, and it tells us here on my color panel what range of cyan, magenta, yellow, and key black was used to create this color. So right away, I have a lot of information on this one color that I have selected. Now, because of these tools, I can now get the perfect color that I want. So the next step would be to use my color panel here, and I'm going to go into my color up my panel options, and I'm going to change it to HSB, hue, saturation, and brightness. And what this is saying, this is telling me the amount of hue, the amount of saturation, and the amount of brightness that was used to get this color here, which is a color that I selected over here, which was based on a theme that was seasons. So you can kind of see how the seasons kind of led me down this path, the seasons theme. Now, if I don't quite like this particular color, I can always tweak the saturation or the brightness to get the exact tone that I like. However, notice that I started from this tone here and I started from this theme here, but I don't have to pick this particular color. I can use my color panel here to just slightly give me the exact feel that I wanted. So let me go, let's say that I wanted this kind of a very pastel-y kind of brown. There. Now once I have this color that I've now configured using the color panel, I can now save it to my swatches here. And how I save it? Well, all I need to do is to drag it into my swatches panel. So I just click this color and drag it here. So now I have saved the color. Now I have saved this color here. And you could repeat this process a number of times to save whatever color you might like. So now that you've selected a color that you definitely want to be in this building, how do I know what colors complement this color that I've selected here? Well, this is where the color guide comes in. Now, if you notice on the color guide, it always displays the color that you have currently selected. Then right beside it, it shows you a list of colors that go well together based on color theory. So what do I mean by that? Well, if we click on this down arrow here, notice on the left side of this is the color that you've selected, and on the right are the matching colors based on the color theory. And that color theory is used to drive these selections. So let's say that you want to use the triad color theory here. Well, using the triad color theory, these are the colors that go well with the color that I have selected. Now I can say, oh, I really like this green, so I'm going to select it and drag it out here. I like this purple, I'm going to drag it out here. And I like this dark brown here, I'm going to drag it out here. So right away, just by configuring one color, I was able to select multiple colors that matches the one color that I've selected. And I didn't even have to necessarily memorize my color theory. Illustrator did that for me. All right. So now that I have my colors that I like, my next step would be to now use the live paint bucket to now color my elevation. Now in order to do this, first, if you remember the steps, I'm going to select the layer, or I currently have it locked. So I need to, now that I've finished using these swatches, I can close up this window here. I don't need this window anymore. And let's maximize this window here. There we go. So if I go to my elevation drawing, I'm going to unlock that layer, select the elevation drawing, and then I'm going to use my live paint bucket tool, which is that. And remember, it is a sub tool under the shape builder tool if you don't see it. And I'm going to click once. Now remember this, once I click, it's going to say make a live paint group. I just need to click once. Now once I do that, this is now a single group. If I use my direct selection tool and click, the entire thing now acts as one group. However, now I'm able to use my live paint tool and I can now fill in the difference.
It's giving me an error. Apparently I have a clipping path, so it's not allowing me to do live paint. Sir?
Sorry, I was muted. It's not allowing you to do the live paint group. Why?
It says the selection
Right.
contains objects that cannot be converted.
Right. So once there is anything that's a text item, you won't be able to turn it into a live paint group. So you have to make sure that you're not selecting text. All right.
Oh, it moved the side elevation.
So you need to make sure the text there is off.
All right, thanks.
All right, cool. Sections here. So remember that I had used my swatches and I had selected the color that I liked. So I'm going to color my main wall this color. Now, interestingly enough, this wall here is really at an angle. So ideally, I would want this to be a darker shade to signify that this is slant. Now to do that, I can simply just use my color guide, and I just need to choose a darker tone based on this color I have selected here. There we go. Maybe that's too dark. Let me go up another notch. Actually, that is the same color. Yep, this is the next notch down. So that would be the color there. There we go. And I can start to use from my swatches some of these colors that I have selected here. So I kind of had this darker color here I'm going to use for the rim. And let's try this in, yeah, so let's try this over here in this color here, and like that. All right, great. Now in order to do the roof, let's say that I want to make the roof a kind of burgundy color, right? Now you could do the same process again, and in the swatches panel you could use your library and look for a color here that you want to use. Let's look on the earth tone. Here we go. So I could find a nice earth tone color I want to use for the roof. Maybe this kind of orange here. And once I've selected it, I can drag it and add it to my library, to my swatches there. And now I'm able to click and color the roof. Now you might notice that you have to be clicking a while, clicking a lot here. But what you can do is click and hold. And when you click and hold, it will actually do a multiple selection so that you don't have to click a lot of times. There we go. Oops, I think I have selected, so I did an undo there. There we go. And I could do the same here. So it almost acts like a brush when I click and hold. Now to make this a little nicer, what I could do is I can use my color guide tool and choose, if you can see, this is my color here. So this color matches this color. In my color guide is the center. You can see it with a little arrow there, and going this way would be going lighter, and going this way would be going darker. So let's go one shade up, and then I will color again. So you notice I can get like a kind of mixed shingle look there. So you realize the color guide can be used to kind of step up or step down your color selections. So you can kind of move the mouse a little quickly to give it a kind of a random feel. Now let's say that I accidentally colored my fascia board here with the same color as the roof. I mean, because I had the swatches saved, I can just go back to my swatches here, select back my brown color, I think it was that one, and voila. All right, let's continue with the roof. All right, so once you have that all done, next we perhaps need to do the windows. So we could use the same library feature. This time we could choose something like perhaps something like skies on the gradients. Maybe choose something like that, maybe. There we go. Oops, we don't want to color the frames in that color. Maybe not, so maybe a flat color would work a bit better. So let's go back to the library, and we could select something under all right. Now I know that we're like blazing and going through. And we're trying to make it to the end. Don't worry, we're going to make this recording, and then I have a part 2 that we're going to make available. So don't worry. But it's because I don't want to keep you guys too late, while I just want to kind of go through so I can show you everything. All right, guys, are you with me?
Yes, sir.
All right, so let's continue, because this is pretty much the last thing that we're going to do for now. So let's continue. Let's go nature and let's try beach. But let me tell you guys, like this feature that Illustrator have is pretty revolutionary, and it has been in Illustrator for a long time. All of your color worries, all of your color queries, anything that you can conceive of in terms of selecting the right color, don't ever forget about Illustrator, because you see all of these themes that are built in, like beach and earth tone and all of these things. Whenever you're doing your studio work, it could be something simple like a book cover, or it could be something complex like deciding, it could be something mundane like deciding what clothes to wear today. You can literally open Illustrator and say, I have this color shirt. Show me different options that will go with this shirt that I'm wearing. I mean, it's literally that practical, the way how they have embedded color theory in Illustrator, right? So whenever I'm working on any kind of graphics or any kind of design, or it could even be something simple like choosing how you want to do your borders in terms of when you do a design or a flyer, or picking out things that go well together. This is how you this is some of the tools that you can use. All right, so let's get through it. And on the beach, yep, we do have some kind of beachy blue colors. So let's try this now, and this will give us a kind of flat color, which, oops, let's undo, which may work. You know, it's going to be up to your preference to choose what color you would want here. There we go. Okay, now for the stone wall, perhaps we could under the same beach color, we could pick some tones here, and then we could use a different tone for the backdrop. So that would kind of give a interesting mix for our stones, so that it has this kind of interesting color. You can maybe try grays or maybe even some gradients to let it look a bit diverse. There we go. Now remember, all of these lines are actually coming from AutoCAD, but we're able to repurpose them more creatively when it comes into Illustrator. So that is quite awesome. Okay, now next, what we would want to do is perhaps get some entourage in this image. And if you look in your working folder, remember these images here, we actually have some vehicles in elevation. So for example, this car here, I can download it. And if I open it up, that's what it looks like. And I can copy this PNG here, and I can paste it in my drawing here. Let's resize it. And you want to hold shift so you keep the ratio. Oh, actually, you're not going to get the transparent background, so let us find where it is and drag it into our scene here. Right, so now it comes in with the transparency. Rather than using the copy, just find where you downloaded it and copy it in. Oops, remember to hold shift so that it remains. And you want to get your scale correctly. I think it's about that. So as you can see, there are many other assets in this folder, including persons in elevations, trees. So for example, you could grab this tree here, as well as you can get trees from the internet. And I can drag that in, and I can resize that there and perhaps drop there. And of course, if I wanted to put it behind, I can actually create a layer called tree and place it on that layer, so that way I can choose to put it behind or in front of my drawing. So with that said, what I want you to do is to populate this drawing to now let it look a bit more architecturally rich. And what I'm doing here is just creating some more content. So I'm going to have a layer called people, and I'm going to put this person here on that layer. There we go. I can put this layer on top, and I can better position this layer . I don't know if you noticed, or some of you might be experiencing the same thing, but if you want to move something in Illustrator and you click in this white space, it's not going to move. And the reason I can show you by moving this here, if you realize, you can see that, oh, obviously there's nothing here. All that is here is lines. So sometimes when you're trying to move something, like you want to drag something, you need to grab an actual object. If you try to grab in an empty space, it won't move. Okay, guys? I don't know if that has been annoying anybody. All right, let's proceed.
I'm using the arrow keys to manipulate the layer. In this scenario, I would have to have a, I would call this people, BG for maybe background, and this layer now I would put them behind the elevation layer so that they are pretty much behind that layer there. Now of course I would need to fill this in, so I would need to go back to this layer here and use my paint bucket tool, and perhaps I can even fill this with a white color. So let's get a closer color to white and maybe fill like that. To fill these balcony items here, I could maybe use a gradient, maybe a gradient earth tone, like maybe that. No, that's a bit too heavy. So like that, to get so that it has a nice curved look. There we go. There we go. All right. Now you can use the transform option up here to quickly resize these, and I'm actually using, here we go, let's see, well, you can use the transform to position it, but you would need to, no, you wouldn't be able to use this one here. You would have to use the transform panel. Here we go. If I can remember correctly, here we go. There we go. Right, and I'm using the mouse wheel. That's actually the same thing here. Actually, it was this side, right? I'm using the mouse wheel to make it smaller. So you can actually, instead of dragging to position it, you could use the transform panel and your mouse wheel to kind of get it in the right location and the right scale. Oops. I think I may have squashed it there. Let's undo that. There we go. Right. So you want to make sure that it is always locked. The width and the scale is always locked. Sometimes it does give a little trouble. There we go. Maybe one more. Now in this case, if I want to get back this exact color, I could use the pipette tool first and then use the paint bucket tool next. So I use the pipette tool first and then use the paint bucket tool. There we go.
Sorry.
Oops.
When I use the pipette tool, it changes everything.
It does what, everything?
It changes everything, the color of everything.
When you use the pipette tool, it doesn't absorb the color. Oh,
No, it does, but it
Right.
does, but it changes everything else.
I'm not hearing that last thing that you said. It what everything else?
It changes everything else to the same color.
Oh, right. Oh, so okay. So if you use, for example, let's say this here. Right. So let's say that you fill this. Thought I had my thing saved. Oh, goodness. All right. I guess I didn't have it saved. All right. Anyway, let's say that you fill it with a particular color. When you use the pipette tool, when you click, oh, God. Right. All right. Right. When you sample a color, right? When you depend, this might change. Oh, come on, thing. All right. You know what? Let's do this on a much simpler example. Because there's just too much line work here, so it's hanging every minute. All right. So let's say you have an item here, and I'm going to open the watches panel. There we go. And I'm going to draw for maybe earth tones, maybe. All right, there we go.
It's 8 p.m.
All right. So let's copy a few of those. And then I'm going to turn that into a live paint group. So let's say that you fill different colors in this live paint group, right? All right. Now let's say, let me put this over here so we can see it good. All right. So let's say now that you want to fill this color here with this color over here. So when you choose the pipette tool, you need to hold Alt. No, sorry. You just click without holding Alt. And what it will do, it will basically absorb or sample the whatever color wherever you clicked into your whatever slot, whether fill or stroke. All right, so notice that it does that. So if I chose this stroke, notice that it sampled the stroke. It set the stroke, which you can see there, to whatever I sampled here. All right, so let's go back to the pipette tool. All right, so let's go to the pipette tool and sample there. And then I can choose my my paint bucket tool, which I think I have it disabled. See, I use the live paint a lot, so I use a shortcut which is K. But in case you have it turned off, you can just enable it here, or I think it's under, I don't remember which one of these tools it is a part of. Can't remember. Live paint. No, that's not it. Where are you? Okay. The shortcut is K, right? So now that I have sampled it, I can fill it. So what you're saying is that when you sampled, it changed the entire color. That's what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure why it's doing that for you. So when you click the pipette tool, it just changes the color of what you click it on. That's what you
No,
say?
it changes. Like if you were to pipette the blue color, the red and the yellow and the purple would change to the blue.
I mean, if you have these objects selected and then you choose a color, it will change it, but you're saying that it's the pipette tool that changed it for you?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on a second. I'm trying to replicate your issue so I can tell you. I think, I mean, all right, hold on a second there.
So I just added a tree and I tried doing the pivot thing again and it's for some reason. So I guess
And it what?
it fixed, but I still don't know why it happened.
No, there's a it's just that this is what is happening to you when you click on it. It just
Yeah.
pushes that color to everything. I think all right, I'm going to investigate that one. Maybe it's just an additional functionality of the pipette tool because let's see, if you are, it does take a sample, but if you don't have it selected and then you have it selected and then you use it, then it pushes it to everything. I guess it's just really a feature. In case you would want to do that, I guess it's, you know, like how okay, let's say for example you're using the lasso selection tool. All right, so let's say you're doing that. So for example, if you have like different objects here and you want to use the lasso tool and select these objects, you can just draw a box around it and it selects it. But if you want to deselect it, you hold Alt while you're selecting and it will deselect it. So, you know, one tool can have like different effects depending on things like what is selected when you use it, what button you use while you're using the tool. So I'm just assuming that that is a feature of the pipette tool. Like maybe if you just want to like wash everything with the exact same color, then you know you would select the object first and then select the pipette tool and then pick the color that you want to wash it with, and it just changes everything to that color. So it's just a feature. You know, so yeah, that's just the answer, right? If you want to sample though, make sure you're on the pipette tool and before you click the object and it will just sample. But if you have the object selected, then you select the pipette tool, it will just push that color to everything else. All right. So you live and you learn. Like I've never really used that feature before, but okay. Thank you for discovering it. All right. Hey guys, if you really want to learn something, you should teach it. That's the secret. All right. Okay. So I believe we're almost done. If we're not already, I think we put in all of the elements. Yeah, we're pretty much there. I think it was just the windows. And then notice when I'm doing this, I'm actually holding down the paint bucket tool. So I'm not like click, 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 click. I'm just holding it down. Picking a color, holding it down and just dragging. So you can use that to help you paint much quicker.
And when you get used to it, you can use your shortcut keys. So the shortcut key for this is the K button. There we go. All right, now what needs to happen is for the plan.
All right. So for the plan, you're going to now go ahead and do that on your own, right? So the same process would apply for the plan, meaning you would turn it into a live paint group. You would select colors based on the color guide and fill the walls. So instead of you filling the elevation walls, you're going to be filling the walls in plan. Instead of you using a tree in elevation, you're going to be using a tree in plan, and so forth. So it is basically the exact same process, but just from a plan view. Now, for those of you who still would want some kind of guidance in terms of doing that, hold on. If you look on the class website, and if you look under recordings, I have prepared a recording for you guys. Let's take a look here. Intro to 3D modeling, 23. And then you just need to watch part 3. Nope, sorry. Where is it? Oh, the latest one comes at the top, right? So you just need to watch part 3. And that will show you how to do it in plan. Now, remember, the plan is the exact same thing that you did in elevation. So I'm going to challenge you guys that now that you've some of us has kind of followed along in class, I challenge you to do the plan view without looking on the tutorial, all right? Because it's the same process just from a plan view, all right? If you ever get lost or trapped, remember that recording is here for you to watch, all right? All right, guys. So as I said, this is perhaps one of the most important exercises, because you will straight up be using this especially when you want to create presentation floor plans. This is not the only way to create presentation floor plans. For those of you who are Photoshop fans, you might use Photoshop's paint bucket to do these things. But I want to promote the use of vector related tools because it just handles your line work much better. Okay, so that has been our class for today. Next week we do our final exercise, right? Also remember the exercise grades are also there, right? Just head over to the class site and there you go. Oops, wrong one. Computing.
Sir, how long are you giving us to finish this?
I tell you what, I will give you till Friday. DDM.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Sir, we did need the full session for this though. This is kind of involved.
I know. So that's why I tell you that this is perhaps the longest tutorial, but not long in terms of in class, but long in terms of the process and to kind of absorb all the things you need to do. But believe me, you're going to be working a lot with DWG files. You're going to be needing to do colored elevations, colored plans. This is another one of them that you want to learn how to do, because many times you're going to, well, all of these exercises are literally handpicked. They are cherry picked from the top things that you will do in the field of architecture, especially as a CSA student. It's kind of preparing you for all of the things that you will use here on out. So yes, this exercise is involved. So I'm going to give you guys till Friday to do this one. I'll mark it over the weekend. All right. So, all right. I was saying that if you look on the site, you can go to check grades and you will see that these grades are all updated. So
What is the creative mark?
What is these marks?
How do we get that creative mark?
For which one?
Oh,
For this one,
creative.
for exercise 4?
Oh, all of them. Some people get creative.
Oh,
we're just doing the same thing that we do that they did on the screen. So how people get creative and all those fancy stuff.
Fancy, okay. I mean, creative is you taking what the exercise a step further. I say that very carefully. That doesn't mean changing the exercise. For example, if you're doing this building, I don't expect you to get to like find another building and like do the whole exercise with another building. You have to use this building. But creative could mean like you take it a step further. Like, you know, I showed you how to put a car and you put a car and a person and birds and I don't know. It's not necessarily in one aspect. It's just.
Oh, I didn't know we could add more to it. I just thought we had to.
Yeah, but that doesn't give you extra marks, you know. It doesn't.
Okay, all right.
Because because creativity is not a criteria. Well, let me not say that. In some of them, it is a criteria because if I say pick an entourage, I mean there are people in the past that pick like Bugs Bunny or some cartoon character, and it's just not fitting with the thing. There are some people who do their exercise too, and it's like shocking color purple, and I'm like saying, what, why, you know? So, appropriate creativity is perhaps what I should call it. But please, guys, don't get too hung up on the exercises. Where I want you to focus your energy is on assignment 1, which is coming up after exercise 5, because that is 25% of your marks. And it's kind of like the Avengers of everything that you did. You know what I mean? So that is where you should focus the energy. All right. The last exercise will be fun because it's going to be 3D. You're going to need SketchUp. So the good thing is that SketchUp now has a cloud version that's free. So you don't even need to install it. You could like use it in the cloud. However, the pro version is the best version to get. So talk to the lab tech, let him help you out to get the pro versions. The versions that you install to the computer, they will have features that you will need for the assignment. The web versions are stripped down, but you can still do the exercise in class with the web version. So, all right. So I will see you again next week. All right, guys. Take care. Have a good weekend. And until I see you. All right. Cool.
Bye, sir.
Bye.
How far you go in life depends on your being tender with the young, compassionate with the aged, sympathetic of striving, and tolerant of the weak and strong. Because someday in your life, you will have been all of these. George Washington Carver.
How far you go in life depends on your being tender with the young, compassionate with the aged, sympathetic of the striving, and tolerant of the weak and strong. Because someday in your life, you will have been all of these. George Washington Carver.